got plenty of fluid. See if we can't figure out what's wrong with these brakes. Oh, hey guys. Yeah, come on into the shop. I was just taking a look at this 2007 Mazda 3. This car belongs to my daughter, and you may have seen it on some other videos. I work on this thing from time to time whenever she has issue with it. Well, this time, she had already, just to give a little backstory, she's already taken this thing into a shop, and they put brand new brake pads all the way around on it, and I'm sure it probably did need it, but it was a temporary fix, and it didn't really fix the problem. She's complaining of a spongy pedal, and it's just not stopping like it should. Doesn't have the brake performance that it should have. So I started poking around. First thing you want to do in that situation is check for brake leaks and or make sure you have plenty of fluid in your master cylinder. So I've already done that. The fluid's full. There's no real reason that it should be doing this. So I started looking a little deeper, and down on the bottom of the master cylinder down there, I'm seeing sign, or actually it's on the back of the power brake booster. I can see sign where it's been leaking back there. So probably a seal has gone bad inside the master cylinder is my guess. So I went ahead and ordered a brand new master cylinder, and today I'm going to show you guys how to change that out. This is the master cylinder back here, and I believe this is the culprit, and this is what's causing our braking issues. As you can see, like on many of these modern vehicles, it's covered with plastic, so we're going to have to start loosening up some of this stuff, and hopefully a lot of it will just snap out of the way. I probably will have to pull the battery out of the way because it looks like maybe to get to the bolts it might be a little easier, but I won't know until I start removing some of this plastic. So let's see what's underneath this. I know the battery's under here. Pops out of the way. Just set all your plastic bits aside here. And I've got to see if I'm going to have to move that battery tray out of the way or not. Okay, this comes off, so that may help a little. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to take this battery tray out or not, but for sure I need to get the battery out of the way. And look at that. That pops right out of there. Take that out of the way. Oh, so much plastic. Okay, hopefully once I get the battery out of the box here, there'll be some bolts down at the bottom. Maybe I can loosen that box and just slide it back out of the way, because this little wiring harness thing here, it's all attached to it. So hopefully I can slide all of that back without too much grief, because it looks like I'm going to need to make some clearance to get to this one bolt over here. This one down here, and actually the lines don't look like they're going to be too hard to get to. And that kind of surprises me. I figured that'd be the hardest thing. But the lines are on the passenger side, so it's kind of open over there. But this one bolt right back there, it's kind of tucked up in between the battery box and the master cylinder. I don't think that's going to be accessible without being able to manipulate this battery box. So stay tuned, we'll get that unhooked. All right, I don't know if you'll be able to get a good look at them or not, but there appears to be 3 or 4 bolts. 3 that I'm seeing here. There's one way back in there, one there, and one here that appear to hold this battery tray in. So we're going to get those pulled out right quick. Everything's been 10 millimeters so far. Okay, so now that we have that battery box unbolted, it's loose, and I can actually move it over to the side just enough where I should be able to get up in there. The other bolt that holds the master cylinder on is right there. So I need to be able to get a socket in there to get that nut off. And there's another one down here at the bottom. Hopefully you're seeing that right in between the brake lines. First thing you want to do before you disconnect those bolts that hold it onto the vacuum brake booster, you want to go ahead and take your brake lines loose. Sometimes they can be a real PITA to do, so it's better to do them while the master cylinder is still attached to the car. So we're going to come back. I'm going to get those busted loose. I'll tell you what size they are. Just looking at them, they look like a 10 mil. So we're going to try to get those broken loose without doing any damage to them. I got this one done already, so I can get you guys a shot of this. Hopefully you're seeing that. I don't have a line wrench, a metric line wrench, so I'm just using a regular wrench. And I just want to put even harder and harder pressure on it until it breaks loose. And if you're careful about it, you can do it without rounding the thing over. And that's a 10 millimeter, by the way. Everything has been a 10 millimeter on this so far. So in that way, kudos to the Japanese for doing that. Next up, though, we're going to have to get in here. And I can clearly see these are not 10 millimeters, so I'm going to have to figure out what size those are. And we're going to have to get our socket and our longest extension so that we can get this out pretty much pain-free. Now you'll notice I didn't go ahead and break these all the way loose yet. These lines, I've left them in there because I don't want to make a mess. One thing about brake fluid is that any painted surface that it gets on, it's definitely going to remove the paint off of it. So you got to be really careful with that, not to get it on anything, you know, any of your finished surfaces on the car, or else it will more than likely take the paint off pretty quickly. So, okay, one other thing I want you to be aware of is right up in here behind the battery box, of course, in a really inconvenient place, they've put an electrical connector. I'm assuming it's for either the brake pedal to, you know, the brake light on the dash, so if it senses the thing is too low, or maybe it has to do with the ABS. Okay, the socket that holds the master cylinder on, or the nut that holds it on, is a 13 mil, and you can go right through here for this bottom one. Get this rag out of my way here, and we should be able to break this loose. I may have to set you right here for a moment so that I can get two hands on this. Okay, not too bad. I don't want to take it all the way out. I'm just going to get it real close to being all the way out so that I can reach in there and hopefully break it loose. You know what? As I'm thinking about it, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull it all the way out because I don't want to drop the nut down in there. That might be difficult if I lose it. And lose a nut before I'm ready to, that would definitely be embarrassing. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out, just like so, and make sure it stays in your socket. Come on, baby. Got her. Got to use your mechanic zen. Hold your tongue just right. Okay, got it. There's one, and you can see it's got brake fluid on it. Now we need to do the same thing on this other one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to film that for you because I'm going to have to manipulate this battery box, but I think you get the idea. You've got to get this to squeeze in there. Hey, I might be able to do it. And get on that top nut there. And do the same thing, break it loose. We're going to take it all the way out, and hopefully we won't drop the nut down in the firewall somewhere, because that'd be a real bad deal. Okay, I got to looking at the new master cylinder to try to figure out how that plug comes out of there, and then I also noticed there's an extra hose down here that we're going to have to take off that I wasn't expecting, so let's take a look at that. I pulled the battery box up. I found if you take this negative battery cable out, you can kind of pull this up without hurting anything and buy yourself a little clearance in here. Hopefully you guys will be able to see how this works. There's a tiny little clip on the back side of this, and you push it with your thumb right here. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. I can't get very good lighting in here, I'm sorry, but it's the best I can do. It's right on the side of the master cylinder, and then you just start wiggling that electrical plug with that clip depressed, and then it'll come right off like that, so no problem. Now, we've got to figure out how this thing goes on, and it may just slide on there. I can't really tell what's going on because it's so dark in there. I can't feel, oh wait, there's like a push button thing on the top here. I doubt you can see it because my fingers are in the way, but right on the top of this little rubber line here, there's a push button. So I'm going to try to push that as hard as I can while wiggling on the line, and I got it. Okay, I got it off. Hopefully you can see that now. That clips on, and you have to depress that little push button to get that off of there. So hopefully that'll help you out. I'm going to leave that kind of pointed up for right now kind of out of my way, so in case there's brake fluid in there, it won't leak out. Doesn't appear to be though. I don't see anything dripping out of there. So, okay. Now we can kind of push that back down out of the way. And hopefully we'll be able to, with everything disconnected now, we should be able to pull this out. And I've kind of manipulated the brake lines out, and I'm dripping brake fluid everywhere, so I've got to hurry up with this. This comes out like so. And it's going to take both of my hands because I'm going to have to pull these brake lines out of the way. Come out of there. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you saw that. I've got to wrap it up. It's probably already drained all the brake fluid out. Let me set this aside. Wowee, that was a real pain. Okay, so it's not going to be easy, but you can wiggle it up and out of there. Now I'm going to have a big mess to clean up. Let me show you what's going on here. You could see kind of that pile up right there of material. That's where it's been leaking and seeping for a while. And this over here is where I just spilled it on there. It wasn't that wet, but what I'm going to do before I put this back together is get in here for a few minutes with a little, you could use brake parts cleaner or carburetor cleaner, but I'm just going to put it on a rag and get in here and wipe this down. I don't want to spray it directly because you want to keep any impurities, anything different out of your brake, your lines. You don't want that going in there and mixing with your fresh brake fluid. Okay, because of the angle this thing sits in there and the fittings that I had to provide myself, because this master cylinder didn't come with any fittings, I've decided not to bench bleed this thing. I attempted to, but I kept getting air bubbles and I couldn't get the thing to cycle back in there correctly. So it's not really important in my application to do this because I'm going to use one of these brake bleeders and I'm going to bleed the entire system. So if you're not going to do this, you're going to need to figure out a way to chuck this up to where it'll sit more level in your vise, and then you should be able to bench bleed this thing the typical fashion. Got our new master cylinder. I'm going to kind of pull this out of the way a little and weave him down in there. And I want to try to go ahead and get it on the studs. Oh, come on, get your butt in there, get in there. Okay, just get it started. I can move that line. Like that, okay, nice. Okay, now I'm going to thread on the nuts and just snug them up by hand best I can. Stick your tongue out a little. I find that that helps to get it started for some reason. I'm not sure what the science behind that is, but it is true. Okay. Yeah, that one's, it's started, but it's a little stiff. I can't push it on any farther with my fingers. So I'm going to pull this back out of the way here. And I'm going to try to show you guys. You'll remember we pushed this guy here over, up, and out of the way. So it needs to clip on there. So we're going to do that. To do that, we have to remove this little plug. And some brake fluid is going to spill out. And it's just simply push it on there until it clips. And then pull back on it a little just to make sure it's seated. And then the next thing we're going to do, I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but we're going to stick this plug back on. It didn't really click, but it's because I had my thumb on it, I think. There we go. All right, so we should be done over there. And now we can push that back down for now. And stand up straight for a moment so that you're back. Oh, God. All right. So now I need to hurry up and get those lines on there to stop any dripping from that master cylinder. To reach in there with my fingernail. Pop that out, just let it drop. Get that line in there. Get it started as quick as I can. And if you can, just like that, run it all the way in, as tight as you can with your fingers. Save you some time on the wrench. Same deal, pull it, drop it, kind of quickly screw in the fitting. I can't see this one as well. Come on, baby, get in there. You want to be real careful not to cross thread these guys. Go in from this side. Yes. Yes, go to your home. I also find it helps if you talk to it a little bit sometimes. It just helps to coax them into position. All right, that's as tight as I can go with my fingers. So now, last thing to do here with this is go ahead and get prepared to tighten that up. Find my ratchet. And I'm going to start on this upper one just because it's a little harder to get to. Go ahead and tighten that up. I don't know what the torque specs are on this, but you kind of want to tighten it a little, you know, so that it goes on even. So I'm going to snug this one a bit, and then I'm going to work down on that bottom one a bit. Okay, that's snug. Pull this off without losing my socket. Oh man, come on. There we go. Okay, now we're just going to snug this up, same deal. Go till it's snug, and then go back over to that top one. And we're going to finish it off. We've got to tighten up the brake line still, and then fill it up to the appropriate level. One last snug on the bottom here. That's a full grunt, so that's not going anywhere. I'm gonna get in here, tighten these guys up. Same deal. You want them tight enough they ain't gonna leak, that's for sure. So, and be careful not to slip off of this, because man, there's a lot of sharp stuff around here to cut you up. All right. That's tight enough. And I have to go back here, go under. Nope. Ooh, almost dropped it down in the engine compartment. That could have been bad. Okay, come on. Oh, shoot. I'm having to lay across this thing in a funny way here. Kind of making me feel funny, kind of like when I used to climb the rope in gym class. Okay, let's see here. Oh. Okay, that feels pretty good. I don't want to go crazy on it. I'm just making sure everything's tight. Feels good. That's on. All my plugs are connected back in. I'm ready to top this thing off with brake fluid. But before we do that, I'm going to get everything else put back together. I'm going to get in there and try to wipe all this down so that I can make sure if any new leaks happen that I'll be able to locate them easily, you know, and it's easier if everything's dried off. So I'm going to get in there, wipe all that down, top her off with brake fluids. You do need to bleed this system. So after you've done this, obviously, when you disconnect these lines here, you're introducing an air pocket here, no matter what you do. So you have to bleed the system after you do a master cylinder. It's just pretty much unavoidable. You're not going to get away with it, and you shouldn't try, because what will happen is if that air bubble gets down there in the wrong place in the master cylinder or in your line, that pedal could go all the way to the floor, and if you panic and you don't know what to do and you don't know to pump it up like you should, then you could rear end somebody or hit somebody or hurt somebody, kill somebody. You know, the list goes on and on. So you got to be real careful with this kind of stuff. Anytime you work on the brakes, you know, you're taking a lot of risk and a lot of responsibility into your own hands. So you need to be very thorough and make sure that, you know, whoever you're putting behind the wheel, in this case it's my daughter, I want to make sure that she's got the best possible brakes that this car is capable of having. Stay tuned for part 2, and I'll show you how to bleed this system. Not a super hard job, just kind of a pain in the ass because of that plastic stuff. So if you stayed this long, hit the thumbs up. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll give you a thumbs up. And until then, we'll see you next time.